actually was asked a few different questions, and before we start discussing gentrification, it's important to discuss the laws that speed up the process of gentrification, which is eminent domain. Eminent domain is a law that allows the government uh, to purchase land from private owners for public use, like hospitals and roads and things like that. So when the issue is that when the local governments use eminent domain to take private property, they actually overstate the benefits that the neighborhoods will receive. So I did research on gentrification and eminent domain in order to demonstrate that eminent domain unfairly targets the vulnerable population, specifically our low income residents. The second purpose was to educate residents on the signs of gentrification and their property rights. So what I found was that due to gentrification, a higher number of low-income residents are actually displaced and economically impacted. Um, a social worker's role in gentrification is to advocate for the vulnerable population of the neighborhoods and educate them on the signs of gentrification and how to protect their property in order to avoid being displaced. So it's important that we're cognizant of the sense of belonging that residents have. This actually can affect not only financially but the mental health of residents. I mean, just imagine you've lived in a neighborhood your entire life, and then suddenly new people start to enter the neighborhood, and things that you've done on a normal basis, like choir rehearsal, they come in and start complaining about the noise coming from the churches during those days. Or if you move, for example, we've had people in our area that have moved by the university, which is a historically black university, and have complained about the noise from homecoming. So these are things that can harm a person's mental health. So it's not just money, it's not just your home that you lose, but you're actually being affected mentally. So it's important to pay close attention to that as well as helping to keep keep our low income from being displaced. Someone asked if a neighborhoods are getting fixed up, how is that bad? But who are they fixing the neighborhoods up for? Are they fixing them up for the low income residents that have resided there probably their entire lives? Or, your seniors that are living on Social Security, most of them, their homes might be paid for. But what happens is if you live in a 1,200 square foot house and someone purchases another 1,200 square foot house beside you and fixes it up and actually remodels it, and it's now a 3,000 square foot house, this is going to affect the property taxes of the person that's still living in the 1,200 square foot house. So their taxes are actually going to go up because what happens is these homes actually increase the property value of the neighborhood. This might sound like a positive, but it's not really positive for our low income residents because their income is staying the same, but their expenses are rising. So this is an issue that we need to pay attention to when it comes to our low income residents. So we're going to help, give a voice to these residents. Another question was, what are some of the signs? How do I know if my neighborhood's being gentrified? So if you live in a neighborhood and you suddenly see businesses like coffee shops, so if you see Starbucks popping up all over the place, if you start seeing greenways being built, if you start seeing bike paths, things like that. Those are good signs that gentrification is heading to the area, because they're suiting the neighborhood for our, the incoming residents. These are people that prefer to walk or bike to work, or to hang out in like parks and things like that. So they're suiting the neighborhood for these more affluent residents. So another question was, how does it hurt? How does it hurt people? And that's how it hurts people. It hurts people mentally. It hurts people financially. Um, and this is something that's going on everywhere. Uh, this is going on in Charlotte, where we reside. It's going on in a neighborhood on the west side, which was historically a black area. That dynamic of the neighborhood is changing. So now you're seeing these more affluent residents walking their dogs, riding their bikes to get around. The schools are improving, but our kids are not seeing the benefits of that, because we can't afford to live in a neighborhood that we resided in all our lives. So this is harmful to our low income residents. I've heard people say, well, just move somewhere else. Okay, so they have to move on the outskirts of Charlotte, where they don't have any access to buses, they don't have access to the light rail. Um, they have to live in food deserts, which is another issue, because you don't have access to proper nutrition, which affects learning. So if you're constantly just eating junk, you don't have access to vegetables and um, healthy foods. That affects a child's learning. And then that circle, what happens if you can't learn, is a frustration, you drop out of school. So it's not just financial when it comes to gentrification. It's harmful to adults, it's harmful to children. So we have to think about that. It seems simple enough to just go find some place um, where you can afford. Which all along this neighborhood has been an area where people were comfortable. They lived around people that they were comfortable with, their family, longtime friends, and things of that nature. So we have to think about that.